We now move further down High Street. It's a Saturday morning in 2008, and Chester's, Boots, the Nationwide and Thomas Cook are all open for business. If we go back to around 1908, there are no signs of motorised vehicles. The Swan looks the same, and in the foreground, on the left, is Wood's shop, owned by Jess and Mary Ann from Elworth Street. The top floor belonged to R.A. Tomlinson, printer and bookseller, and was used for commercial and artistic printing. A few years later, around 1915, the shop fronts now show Tomlinson and Moody's the jewellers, with the old advertiser offices above. Wardle's the drapers were still going strong on the corner. As we turn and look down High Street as it is today in the summer of 2008, we see the traffic calming measures and the one-way system which was introduced in 2003. The same view in 1926 shows a road which seems wider, the shop frontages less gaudy, and Walworth & Co. yet to be built. The young girl on the right is from Miss Harris's school further down High Street, a place we shall visit later. We move a little further down and look at the next buildings in 2001. Price City, Woolworths, and Peter Hanlon and Sons have appeared. Here now is the same row in 1971. On the left, the corner of the Co-op. Then the Ministry of Pensions and National Insurance, closed later that year. F.W. Woolworths & Co. Limited, built around 1936. Kraft Cleaners, and finally Goodwin's Bakery. We now take a closer look at the building currently occupied by Price City Home and Garden, although many still refer to it as the old Co-op building. The building in the centre, with the single blind, was built in 1892 and known as Tomlinson's Cafe. You could always get tea and sandwiches up to 11 o'clock at night there. Later it became the Hungerford Temperance Private Hotel and Restaurant. It was sold to the Co-op in the 1960s, who operated here until they moved out in 1994. The double-fronted shop on the right was at this time Gould's General Provision Store, and on the first floor the Liberal Club used to meet. This photograph was taken in 1922. The Roaring Twenties are captured in this photograph, Warburton's, the baker's, annual staff outing to Chester in the Danish charabanc. The boy standing to the left is Roy Warburton, and the engine is being cranked by Arthur Wright, whose parents owned the vehicle. The photograph was again taken in the early 1920s. We move further down and pause to look back up the High Street. If we roll the clock back well over 100 years, we see these shops decorated for the coronation of Edward VII in 1902. It should have originally been celebrated on the 26th of June, but he had appendicitis, so it was moved to the 19th of August. On the far left, we have Lee and Richardson, the drapers, and next door, A.W. Dickinson, ironmongers. We are now standing just outside the Lion Hotel, out of view to the right, looking across the square with the Black Bear on the left and with St. Mary's Church Tower clearly visible on the skyline. The War Memorial is just to the right of the centre of the picture. This area, you may think, has changed little over the years. However, if you had been on this spot in 1890, your view would have been blocked by these buildings. Luntz, the ironmongers, used to occupy this spot, and by jutting out into the main street, and with the Times Supply building on the right adjoining the front of the Lion Hotel, the roads became very narrow. At the turn of the 20th century, Luntz was demolished and the business moved across the road, where it remained until the 1950s. We move on to the cobbles and take a look at one of the best kept buildings on the square. The Black Bear, built in 1634, is the last remaining thatched building in the town. Originally, 3 separate buildings stood here. A little one-storey shop, where the pub entrance side gates are now. A larger 2-storey building, separated from the Black Bear by an alleyway, and the Black Bear itself. The Black Bear was originally owned by Lord Crewe, and some say it took its name from the bear baiting activities that took place. Other stories tell us that Dick Turpin stayed here on more than one occasion. But if this famous highwayman had stayed in all the places accredited to him, he would have lived to be a very old man. The local fox hunting meet used to assemble outside here for its stirrup cup, and they can be seen here in December 1905. The 2-storey building next to the Black Bear was occupied by Mr. and Mrs. Allen, who made and sold clogs and shoes from the front room shop. It was affectionately known as Clogger Allen's, and was one of the main footwear shops in the town. A large iron cutout of a clog, suspended from a bracket high on the front wall, identified the shop, and this remained there until Mr. Allen died in 1931. The ancient crosses are an icon for Sandbach, and appear in the publicity material of many Sandbach organisations, as well as the coat of arms of the council. Here we compare a view from the 1957 Town Guide with a recent photograph. The crosses have looked down upon many events in their long history and attract many visitors. Here, 16-year-old Richard Cooper on his 1920s aerial motorcycle admires the carvings and takes a rest from riding over the uneven cobbles. The cobbles, or more correctly pebbles, were laid in 1816. They were gathered by women and children from Sandbach Heath, who were paid 16 shillings and sixpence for their 3 days' labour. The crosses are recognised as one of the finest Saxon monuments in Britain, and contain the most intricate carvings. They date from a time from which little or no evidence has survived, and this has resulted in many theories about their origin. Recent research indicates that they were carved in the 9th century. They proclaim the Christian message, and would have been brightly painted and decorated with jewels and metal. It is believed that they were broken up in the 17th century. Pieces were found in various places and re-erected under the direction of George Ormerod, the Cheshire historian, in 1816. Many postcards showing the crosses have been sold to visitors to the town. This one dates from around 1910. In this engraving by W. Alexander in 1810, we see the crosses prior to their reconstruction in 1816. The original town hall can be seen, situated where the War Memorial is today. This building had an upper floor for meetings and a ground floor for shops and a prison cell. We move on another 70 years or so to a market day in 1888. The original town hall has been replaced with an enlarged version, still in the same position. We leave the crosses with a classic night-time image, with the Market Tavern and Crown Inn lit up in the background. The Market Tavern, on the left, was probably built around 1680, and was originally split into 2 units, the public house being the major part. A distinguishing feature of the interior was a row of small rooms running from front to back on the right-hand side. These were used mainly on Thursday market day by farmers discussing in private a deal for their produce with the shopkeepers and traders. The Crown Inn, stretching across the northern boundary of the square, dates from the same period.